So with me, I have Flossie and Nick. They both are going to come in and talk about how to build that 5 slide deck which aligns with your buyers or investors. So what do you think? Are you enjoying today?
It's
So much
awesome.
fun.
As a community, I think the more we have endorsements and engagement, we can really drive a lot of value for our members. So with that, I'm going to hand over the baton and I'm going to go. You guys have fun.
All right. Flossie, you ready?
I'm ready. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so we can get the deck up. We're good?
This is great.
Perfect. So excited to be here, everybody. We're going to talk all about Pitch Perfect, building a 5-slide deck. We do slides and we are trying to simplify this with some basics. But Nick's going to talk today on the investment side, and I'm going to talk a little bit on the buyer side. So there's some QR codes here. Nick, you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit more about Founders Live and who you are and all the great work that you do and why you're teaching pitching today?
Yes, if you all are not familiar, Founders Live, again, we are a global ecosystem for early stage startups and entrepreneurs. We're best known for our pitch competitions. I started Founders Live a little more than 11 years ago in Seattle as simply a networking event. I just did a little test, and that test in March of 2014 proved that not only people want to get together, they want to build community, but entrepreneurs and founders want to talk about what they're building. And I tested this format, which is the 99-second pitch. So it'll match a lot with what we talk about right here. But that test in 2014 kickstarted something that now spreads all around the world. And we have pitch competitions in Pakistan and South Korea, across North America and every continent now. It's been very amazing. And I've seen thousands of pitches and excited to really showcase and really point to, if you had to pare it down into the most optimum things in whatever you put in your slide, as well as what you say, that's what we're going to talk about here next.
So excited and always love working with you. As I mentioned earlier, I'm the CEO of Stella Foundation. We are a national nonprofit. We have a gender focus, so we mostly work with women. We have everything from an educational library with 300 units of education, from ideation to raising pre-seed and seed capital. We have a virtual accelerator that gets you pre-seed ready. We have a Stella Angels arm when you're actively raising pre-seed. And then we host events all over the country with our partners. So at the end of this deck, Nick and I will both have some links so you guys can get connected with the programs that we both run. But we're all founder focused and hoping that you can succeed in your business. And I just, Nick, see lots of pitches, thousands of them a year. So these are just some very basic pointers on things that we can give you to, if you hopefully take these away, whether you're meeting with investors or buyers, that there are tips that you can take to heart when you're building out your deck. So I'll drop off, and Nick, I'll let you go from here.
Thank you. And I'll be instructing you to move along the slides. This is great. Everyone, as we talk about pitching, what is it? I think that's at least something to start off this thought process and conversation. Pitching is everything. In our today's world, we've heard it already. Not only are we bombarded with messages that basically it's all the noise, get ready for that to get tremendously worse with AI and everything of that nature. The sea of noise is going to be so much even worse. So your skills and knowledge of how to properly pitch your concept in your business is getting even more important. So, but pitching is everything for investors if you're looking to raise money. Sales for your customers, which you'll hear on the buyer side. Actually, new employees and advisors, you have to sell them and pitch them on your value. And I'm just going to throw it out there. If you're a founder, your family and friends, when they're asking, what the heck are you actually building and why? So you need to pitch them the value. And it accomplishes, it's a tool that your company, your why and your what, tells a story there. It's involving storytelling. There's visuals to aid the person who's reading it, your concise achievements through those data and metrics. And then, of course, probably the most important thing, your why. Your pitch, this slide deck and the resulting decks that you will create for either selling to customers or bringing on that hopefully multi-million-dollar investment, What is your why? Why are you actually doing this? As we say, again, literally, I've seen thousands of pitches, and the difference between success and failure is around the calm confidence, along with properly set up deck that really maps the why, the traction, and who's on the team and all that stuff. Hey, let's advance to the next slide here. And we're going to first focus on the capital intent and raising money from investors. And this deck should really tell the story of the problem, solution, product, how you make money, okay, the business case, your traction, basically what you've accomplished, and where you're going and why, how much you're raising and what that purpose is for. So let's really start with the problem. So the point is this: you need to show a real, urgent pain point with context. And we see this a lot with Founders Live. Again, it's a 99-second pitch, 5, 7, 8 slides at most. When a pitch is taking place, you open with your problem set, right? And at Founders Live, we actually really instruct our founders that are pitching to try, your goal is to get people to nod their head that they understand quickly enough the problem that you're trying to solve. If you don't achieve that, your pitch is going to fall flat because people don't even know what you're actually building for and solving for. Really identifying what is the problem here, and then the solution, so that, you know, very quickly your next slide or what you're telling is, here's how we solve it, right? And that is not only your solution, most likely involving technology or whatever the product and IP is. Who is this solving it for? So what is your customer segment? Details on that. And then I would suggest making sure that you're involving the differentiation, right? And you can get into further slides like competition and other things, but very quickly illustrating how is your solution different than other things in the market. Then you would for sure be including the traction slide. I would say this is the most important. Traction meaning, what have you accomplished? How have you grown? And investors are really looking at, okay, what have you done? And especially, what have you done with a little amount of capital that you've been put into the company at this point? What is the growth? What metrics are important? How have you gone to market and grown? These things has to be the most important, if not with the team as well. Then you're looking at market and model, right? So really you can squeeze this into, how are you making money? So what's the business model? You always want to have that as a direct answer in your slides. So what is the revenue model? And then the market, right? And you've heard probably TAM, SAM, and SAM, basically meaning your total addressable market. A lot of times these are mapped out in visuals. So what is the total addressable market? What is the service addressable market? And then what is your attainable market? So SAM really is, what segment of the market will you reach? Because you're not going to reach the entire TAM. You're going to reach an attainable and obtainable market. How are you going to get there? So that really should be on those slides. And then again, your revenue strategy. How are you making money and how does that scale and grow? And then the last one is team and ask. Who is on the team? Here's where you can brag about your team. You should be bragging about your team. Investors invest in people first. They invest in the team. You'll hear that a lot. So you want to make sure that you're illustrating the value of the people on the team, as well as how much you're raising and the terms and how are you going to use that capital. All right, we can advance to the next slide here. And just to sum up here, investors want upside. So any investor, whether it's an angel or a VC or a corporate venture capital, they are looking for what is called upside, basically meaning they want to get in on a deal early and they want to see this company grow in value and get a return on investment. That's how this all works. So you need to show that and it'll speak to that in your pitch. Have concrete examples. And this is something that I would for sure tap into, is be real and be truthful. Please do not fake anything. Please do not misrepresent. Use examples of your traction that is honest and real, and you can make a compelling story no matter what sort of stage you're in traction, but please don't misrepresent. Again, doubling down on the team. Why you, why now, and why this team? And convincing an investor that you are the team to invest in is one of your biggest goals with this slide deck. Hope that helped. We'll definitely address a little more later, but I would like to hand it off to Flossie.
Before you head off, I have a question for you, Nick. You said something when we were talking the other day about investors and basically how quickly they make a judgment, how they're skimming decks, and how we talked a little bit about how they're now even using AI to scan for certain information. So can you explain a little bit about that? Like why this 5 slides, if you don't catch their attention, like they're gone?
Yeah, thank you for the question. This is so important. The latest that I've seen is it's upwards of 3 minutes at most, could be less now. When you give and send a slide deck to any investors, the metrics that are seen now in terms of how much time they spend on your deck is at most 3 minutes. Let's just call it even 2 minutes. Wow. Okay. First of all, that's not a lot of time. So your pitch deck, whether it's 5 slides, 10, 15 in the shape that you want to create it, absolutely must catch their attention. That's for sure design. Okay. That's also what story are you telling? Again, the traction and metrics. So within 5-10 seconds, they need to feel that this is a team and a company that's on the upswing and they would be compelled to want to learn more. So just understanding that you have very little time. The design of your pitch deck and the illustration and the words that you use are tremendously important. And of course, with AI, investors might not even be looking at these anymore. The AI systems might just be looking for certain visuals or words. This is important stuff, and I don't have all the answers for sure, but I would just encourage you all to take this very seriously.
Yeah, and I always say that if you have a 40 slide deck and a 20-minute pitch, of course you can talk about everything that you do. But if you had 90 seconds or 2 minutes or 3 minutes and 5 slides, can you still clearly articulate why this is so valuable, what you do, and why should I care?
Exactly.
Right. Thank you for this, and excited to lean in now on the business side. Okay, so excited to have you all here. I'm going to talk a little bit on the opposite side. So, for those of you that don't know, just to reiterate a little bit, you should have multiple decks for multiple reasons. They should be different lengths, different formats, and you're going to have different audiences. You're going to have decks that are for investors, decks that are for partners, decks that are for onboarding or employees, decks that are specifically for sales with buyer intent. But the information is generally this similar information, and all of this, it's packaged a little bit differently based on the outcome and what you want to do. So what I'm going to talk about a little bit is buyer intent. And if you're using this deck to land sales, it's a little bit different than asking investors for money, and an investor is looking for a return on their investment, like Nick said. So instead, I want to know why I would buy your product or solution over somebody else who's pitching a similar product or solution, or 1,000 other somebodies, right? So just like Nick said, you're going to want to state your problem. What is the buyer's pain point, right? So traditionally, you're looking at the customer solution or the customer's pain point, but now you're going to look at the buyer's pain point. You want to make it emotional. You want to make it urgent. This is something that is needed right now. You want to let them know, why do I care, essentially, and why is it going to save me time? How is it going to make me money? How is it going to solve an actual pain point that I have? They don't care how smart your technology is. You are not just pitching a product or a service, you're pitching results. So let's talk a little bit about that. So when you're leading with urgency, you want to get clear on who feels this pain and why they care. So instead of saying, marketing is hard, I have this marketing service or this marketing tool, you want to say instead, small business owners waste $10,000 a year on campaigns that don't convert. I know they just showed this amazing tool and how it centralizes and makes it really easy for you to share that information. But what you could have shown within that, if you were pitching that product, is how those impressions and centralizing that information turned into money. Because I'm using this tool, I am now able to land sponsors or grants or increase my community or purchasers for my platform. Buyers buy from people who understand their reality and why I need your product or service. So you have to make the pain point super emotional. You have to make it tangible. You can't just say there's a problem. Is it a percentage problem? Is it a money problem? Is it something that I'm willing to give you dollars right now to solve? So next, you want to talk about your solution, which Nick said is your offer. You want to keep it clear, specific, and outcome driven, right? So what are you actually delivering? If I buy your product or service, what do I get? So if I get your product, I would get an AI powered content centralization platform that makes it easy to share information and 10x your ROI or visibility, right? So I know some of those are jargony terms, but that is true. It looks very true from the platform I just saw a little while ago. It looks wonderful. And I quickly saw a way, just on the metrics that the lady showed, how I could monetize that, why I would pay for that platform. I even DM'd that tool, Chai, to my team and said, look at this tool. This looks amazing. Why are we not using it at Stella? Because quickly I tied that solution to money. So skip the buzzwords if you can. Make it obvious to your buyers what they're getting. I feel like those of us that hear pitches all the time, and I'm sure Nick can back this up, we hear a standardization. And when you start to hear buzzword, you start to look in between the lines for the meat of what they're actually doing. So use buzzwords if it makes sense, like AI powered, centralized tools, SaaS, B2B, all the things that you're taught to use in great business school and business terms. But at the end of the day, make it simple. I have so many founders that say, I have an AI powered B2B tool that does. If you had to say it in layman's terms that nobody who knew business or understood what you were talking about, what would you say you did, right? So make it super easy. Make the solution super, super simple. Outcomes and differentiation. So this is really big. Bring your receipts. So do you have case studies? Do you have metrics? Do you have testimonials? Show a case study or a customer with their before and after, before they signed up for my product or used my service. Where were they at? And then how did it propel them to more money or better clarity or whatever the tool is supposed to do. Example, client X increased their revenue 42% in 90 days after implementing our system. And literally I can say, oh, I'd like to increase my revenue 42%. That's fabulous, especially after 90 days. Why would I not want to hear more about your tool? So what are the outcomes? What have you already done? And how have you proved this? Why should they choose you over somebody else? Okay, so traction. Prove it works. Just like Nick said, talk about clients, talk about revenue, talk about retention, talk about referrals. And even if you're early, I have a lot of founders that are pre-launch or pre-revenue. Highlight your pipelines, highlight your wait list, highlight your social media reach, highlight your partnerships, highlight the legwork and grit that you're doing every single day to show the momentum and your customer validation that you took the time to go out and people trust what others are already buying. So if you're in conversations, someone said it earlier, Microsoft is a massive brand. If you can say, I'm talking to somebody at Microsoft, or I have a pilot with Microsoft, that is major brand credibility that other companies are going to follow. So if you get those opportunities, make sure you share that. And then call to action. What do I need to do? I want to book the demo like I just did on that tool earlier. I want to download the proposal. I want to join the beta. So make sure you include pricing, packages, lead-in offers, anything on if I like this and I want to know more, what are my next steps? All right. Oops. Okay, so just final reminder, quick wrap up. Buyers want solutions that solve their pain points. Deliver the proof of why you are going to do this and come with a clear path to yes. Of course, I would want to buy this. Just like that tool earlier, I was like, this is amazing. Took me 10 seconds to realize it. I'm going to buy it, unless it's some astronomical amount of money that's outside my budget. But I have a clear path to yes right now. And a great buyer-facing pitch makes it feel easy to buy, right? I am hooked in. I'm intrigued. I'm excited. This looks amazing. Of course, I want to try it. But just remember that this is a tool, right? Your deck is always a tool. You still have to sell. You have to be personable. You have to come smiling. You have to come with personality. You can't come to these meetings or send a deck and then if they meet you, they could be totally turned off because you might not know the answers or the solutions within it. So make sure that you or someone on your team is great with humans. Sales is still very personal. And if you go through this whole deck and you can memorize it and answer it, Chai, you want to chime in? If you can answer all these questions, then amazing. But they're going to throw you curveballs. They're going to want to know more. You need to know the ins and outs of these things where you can go, yes, actually, I would love to talk to you more about this slide or this solution. And I'm going to dive a little bit deeper. Okay. And then we just have a few things for you all about your Pitch Perfect checklist. So Nick, do you want to go over this and then I can go over some best practices?
Absolutely. This is so great. As the summary of what you're seeing here, everyone, is absolutely clear pain point. And I would just say clarity in general, especially investors. They're sitting across the table. And if they sense that you're not clear on every single one of these things, you're pretty much done. So clarity, obviously, but clear pain point. And how are you unique? So that unique solution differentiated in the market, making that very clear as well. Where is that traction? Showing that activity, the growth. And as you heard in here, it could be various different things. If you are pre-revenue, you can still pinpoint other ways that you have traction in the market. So just find that story and build that out. And then what is the ask? I would say this is also very much important to be clear, very direct on the amount and how you're going to use it. What are you raising? What are the terms? And what are you putting it towards growth of the company? And then painting the picture of why your team, you and your team are there. You're the answer, and you're going to solve the problems of the buyer, or you're going to, when we think about the upside and the return for the investor, why are you a great choice for that investment? And so when you start looking at that checklist, again, there's so many other things that can and should be involved in your preparation, but these are like really, Flossie, would you agree that if you don't have these, like you're dead in the water?
Yeah, and people who see pitches every day, you start flagging missing things. Like, wait, how do you make money? Wait, why your team? Wait, the solution doesn't match the problems. And if your investor or your buyer or your audience or judges are confused, they're not listening to what you're saying. They're trying to figure it out.
And that's not where you want to be. This is why preparation is important. Things like Founders Live help you get over those nerves before you sit in front of investors for possibly millions of dollars of investment.
Yeah, I just have 2 more slides. You want me to go, Chai, or you want us to hop off?
I would say go through the couple of slides, but do give them the offer for people to participate with Stella and Founders Live. That's very important because this community needs access, and I want to ensure you're providing access for both of them.
We got QR codes for that coming up. Okay, so I'm just going to give you suggested visual tools. I'm a brand nerd, but I've also built pitch decks for years now. I'm sorry, but if your pitch deck is ugly, immediately you lose bits of credibility. And it's not because the information isn't valid or the company is not amazing, but you lose a level of professionalism. So when you're building your deck, make sure that visuals really matter. So even as Nick and I were building this deck, I was like, okay, we got the information. We're going to send it over to the designer to make it look good. It's got to look good. If we're talking about pitching, it's got to look great. Minimal text, bold headers, obviously a difference between a reader deck and a presenter deck. Make sure you know that. Icons, short bullets. If you're presenting, they should be listening to you, not reading the slides. It should be like a story that's visually representing what you're saying. Include QR codes to make it easy now, clean professional design. And it doesn't matter if you're not a designer because guess what? There's all kinds of tools out there. These are some sample slides. You guys can have this deck afterwards. We have a couple of base decks that you can use and repurpose as templates. But honestly, at this point, Fiverr and Upwork, you can hire great consultants that can design you a great deck once you do the information. And Canva has so many templates now. If you just look up pitch deck or business outline or business strategy, you can find a lot of great ones on Canva that you can redesign for yourself. Here's all of our Stella information. We do a lot. We have a lot of programs. So all of these logos are different programs within our company, but you can join Stella free. We have a big conference coming up in September, 3 days, Women's Venture Summit, September 23rd, 24th, 25th. It's all women raising capital or women deploying capital. We do have 4 in-person chapters in Southern California, upstate New York, Minnesota, and Connecticut. But all of our programming as it stands is free for you all to join. So if you're a female founder, investor, or partner, please grab one of the QR codes and scan away and join us. And here's some more info on Nick. And you want to tell them about some of the cool things you guys have coming up?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm posting in the chat as well, just to find resources, and there's founderslive.com, and it's free to join. We love to grow our community with more startups, founders, and hey, if you want to apply to pitch at an event in a city, we would love that as well. And then we have the Primetime Pitch Challenge, which is essentially it's our global pitch competition that's online video oriented and online voting. And we open this up to the world. So we really wanted to open up opportunities for people outside of our main Founders Live cities. And so it's fun. You'll learn more about that. It starts July 17th is when things kick off. Free to join as well. And really it's about getting your message out. And part of that is filming your 99-second pitch. So we're excited, and we just want to thank Chaitra and Women in Cloud for this opportunity. We hope this was helpful to you all.
It's always helpful, Nick, Flossie. Both of you are absolutely stellar community leaders and someone that I can always rely on, and at least the Women in Cloud can rely on. And Flossie, really excited to be at the Women's Venture Summit. It's going to be fun. I think build your boards is going to be the topic. So if you have to grow your company, you have to build your board. So there will be a workshop that we will be doing with Impact Seed Foundation at the Women's Venture Summit. And Nick, our community always puts in their request to pitch. So thank you for supporting them. Do you all like it, what you heard today? Any takeaways in the chat? Let us know. And Flossie, I didn't know that you already have put in a request for access to the Vasku platform. I am so happy. They will be so excited. The founders, they were like, do you think the US community will like it? I'm like, absolutely, yes.
I'm excited. Thank you so much for having us.
Fantastic. Thank you all. I want to actually do a surprise guest with us. Karen Fazio, she was one of our co-founders, so she's here. I want to have her and just get a quick pulse on how things are going. What did she learn? So Karen, join us on the stage. Okay, no camera.
No camera.
Always something happens. Unmute your mic. There you go, Karen. Welcome. Are you excited?
Yeah, no, such great information that's been shared. I really love the information that Nick and Flossie shared, especially because it is so true. You really have to have that pretty tight, like your message and all of the things all the goodness that you've invested in, that you've put into the work that you're doing. But also, I think Nick sharing that insight about just how fast these decisions are being made.
Exactly.
And use communities like Women in Cloud to practice. Join Insider Circle to practice and learn the process. And then there's certainly communities such as Founders Live, where once you're at the next level of practice, like this is the way to get yourself out there. And then looking at what Flossie's doing with Stella, I've already shared it with folks. I'm like, be in this community. This whole constellation of communities can help each other succeed.
Absolutely. Especially Flossie has done a fabulous job for women founders. And what we have realized is the go-to-market excellence is something we can bring to her ecosystem. That was what every founder, I would say every investor was looking for. So bringing that IP to that ecosystem will be very powerful for them to have access to the funding. So again, Flossie, thank you. Karen, thank you. And we'll come back again.